Hello, my name is Charlotte Spears, and I will be showing you what life is like in ancient Rome in 484 BC, around where Julius Caesar was in power. First things first, a map of the Roman Empire. This map shows the Roman Empire and how it surrounds the Mediterranean Sea. A really big factor that allowed the Roman Empire to be as great as it was its location. It was in a very mild climate. It was around a sea, which allowed for easy trade and easy sea access and travel. So that was something that hadn't really been seen in other empires before the Roman Empire. Also, because of the mild climate and fertile soil, a lot of farms were able to be made and a lot of crops were produced. This allowed for a large population. They were able to feed every person. Also, it was in the center kind of the known world at the time, which allowed for a trade between different other groups, which grew their empire. So major historical events. The Ides of March was a major one for Julius Caesar specifically. It was Julius Caesar took power from Rome and became its first dictator. Other people that were in charge before that were Mark Antony and Pompey, who was a general of the military. And when Julius Caesar took over, a lot of his supporters and people that were against Julius Caesar conspired and plot to murder him. And they did, and they thought that by doing this, they would be able to restore the Roman Republic. However, it just led to a civil war that eventually, many years later, Julius Caesar's great-nephew, Octavian, who changed his name to Augustus, got everything back together and made the Roman Principate. So some social aspects of Rome at the time of Julius Caesar. It was mainly patriarchal, and which meant that a lot of the wealth and the status transferred between the son from the father, and not necessarily between the mother or the daughter, or between the son and the mother or so, because it was very much men were valued more than women at the time. And this social structure was extremely rigid, so if you were born into like a wealthy family, you would stay wealthy. If you were born into a poor family, it's more likely than not you'll stay poor. Also, children were very much brought up in the same line that their fathers were and their fathers were, so the sons would grow into the job of his father, and they started learning that at a very young age. Women also were treated with lesser than men. They were not able to hold public office or vote, and they were not mentioned infrequently. They were not mentioned as frequently in history as men were, because they weren't necessarily given that same ability to impact the empire as men were at the time. Some cultural forces of ancient Rome. The art of the Romans was greatly influenced by the Greeks, so a lot of it is very similar to Greek culture, but Roman art is a very broad topic, but most specifically it's most recognizable by their marble sculptures and carvings. So an example is right here. This is a chariot procession of Septimus Severus. It is actually in Libya, but it was a Roman artwork. It is a marble carving. Also, the architecture of Rome is one of the most influential and recognizable forms of architecture of all time. It's actually known as the Concrete Revolution because much of the empire was made out of concrete arches and walls and domes and such. And it's still very prevalent today, as you can see in a picture right here. This is the Roman architecture, and right here is actually the United States Supreme Court building. So a lot of buildings specifically in the U.S. government buildings, are designed after Roman buildings. And also right here is the Colosseum. It's an example. It is a giant concrete building made by the Romans, which is why it's called the Concrete Revolution. This is cuisine and currency. Because of, like I said earlier, their mild climate and on the Mediterranean, they had a very unique cuisine. They ate a lot of fish, citrus fruits, cheeses, wines, and bread, which is pictured in that picture right there. Also, the currency of Rome was they used gold in the form of coins, so they had a standardized currency. The language, literature, and music used in ancient Rome, they all spoke Latin, but Greek was taught to the elites as a second language because actually a lot of the historical writing were in Greek. Plays and theater were prominent forms of literature. Right here is actually a theater in ancient Rome. Music was heard frequently at social events. This is a tibia. It's a woodwind instrument, and it was very common in ancient Rome. All right, so that's it. It was really awesome learning about Roman history with you. Now it's time to skedaddle. I'm gonna just have to delete that. I'm gonna throw up everything.